first use case for HTTP. The first use case for HTTP, where I'm taking open API. It is not requiring any authentication. It is open for everyone. I'm looking at the open API and trying to integrate. So let us see. First, create a field in the account object called zip code. Setup, build, customize, accounts, field, custom. Code. I have created a custom field called zip code. Now go back to the Apex class. Trying to create an Apex class. So when you want to make a request, what are the things we require here? Which protocol? What is the protocol we are using? HTTP. Then endpoint. Endpoint. What is the endpoint? I'm going with the open documentations. This is the endpoint. Endpoint. Here I am going to give. Then third one. What format of method is this? Why you can say get? Now if you are passing the data using a URL, obviously it is going to be what? Get. I am passing the city name using a URL. If you are passing the data using a URL, it will be obviously what? Get method. So which protocol? Is there any authorization? Are you using the authorization? Just open authentication. Open for it. No authentication is required. It's open. Because it's open. Are you setting any header elements? Header elements? No header elements. So we are using an HTTP protocol and we are giving a endpoint. What is the data we are passing? City name is the data what we are passing. What is the method we have? Get, authorization, open for everyone, header elements, no elements. This is the data what we are getting from the documentation. Based on this, I have to create a new record. So I am creating public account ACC. Account ACC. Then ACC equal to. First, I am creating basic Visual Force page where I can enter the data of an account. Right. Where I am going to enter the data of an account. But you will not be finding this example first. Watch. It should be we have a controller. Now I am looking at a VF page, Apex form. First I am trying to create with the VF and Apex class. Then I will replace with the page block triggers. Page block buttons. Block section. I'm trying to create a page block section and input field. I created a page. What we have? Account. It's not account, sorry. It's what is that? ACC. I'm using a controller. Fine. ACC. So have a preview. City in the page, postal code. Go back to the setup. Go back to the account. On the account object, we have a fields. The fields we are finding. Field called city. Okay. New field. We are trying to create a field called text. City. The characters. Next. Right. So I have created a field called city. This is how we created. Have a preview of this. We got the account data ownership. What is the last field we have? Ownership. Input field city. Now why you are not able to see the city? There are a lot of issues. What may be the reason? Security controllers, field accessibility, account, view profiles, system admin profile, city field. In a hurry, we might have disabled the format. Right. Now I have a question. Will the Visual Force pages will run as per the user context or will the Visual Force pages will run as per the user context or system context? Visual Force pages will run purely based on user context. Apex classes will run based on which context? Apex classes will run on which context? User context or system context based on with sharing or without sharing. We don't define with sharing or without sharing, it is a without sharing. That will run on the system context. If you want the class to run with sharing, there is user context. Whenever you want Apex class to run on user context with sharing, if you don't define with or without, it is by default without. Without means system context. By default, every Visual Force page will run on which context? Visual Force pages will run on which context? User context. That's the reason the city field is not visible. And once I enter the data, click on the get code, what should happen? Web service call should go to third party. So how do you make a web service call? Public void how you are creating HTTP equal to new HTTP. Then I have to make a HTTP request. HTTP request equal to new HTTP request. When you want to send a request, first we have to set the request. Then what I'm doing? String endpoint. What is the endpoint to which you want to make a request? This is endpoint. In this endpoint, city name will be fetched from what is the city name? ACC dot. This is the endpoint. Once you give the endpoint, you have to set the endpoint. How do you set the endpoint? Request dot set endpoint. Endpoint is nothing but the URL. Set endpoint. What type of method is this? Request dot set. What is the method? Okay. It's in caps. It's a get method. Request dot set. Now I got an endpoint, I got a method. Now I want to send it. How do you send? If I send a request, I'm going to get a response. HTTP response equal to v dot send request. V dot send request. V dot send request. When I send a request, I'm going to get a response. This is the endpoint URL to which I'm making a request. This is the method what we got. So endpoint get send request, we are going to get a response. Now look at the point. So what is the format we are giving? What is the format we are giving? was HTTP request endpoint method. Do you have any authorization? No authorization. Do you want to pass any elements in that? No elements. So what we have? Only endpoint, only method. Once you got the response, this response I want to display first, so that we understand we are getting in a JSON format or what format. I want to display this. So how do you get the response? JSON string equal to response dot get body. Response dot get body. I want to get the body of the response. Okay. Now in the VF page, I am trying to display. Right. So when you call this method, it will throw an error message. What is the error message? Any third party system with which you are trying to communicate, the third party system should be registered with a remote site setting. Any third party system with which you want to communicate, the third party system should be registered with a remote site setting. If you don't register with the remote site setting, it will throw error message. So let us look at the error message. I have not registered the endpoint with the remote site setting. Then when I make a request to this, it is going to throw me an error message. Says remote site setting is not registered. The endpoint URL is not registered with the, what happened? Copy this, go to the remote site settings, security controllers, remote site settings, new, once it is registered, everything is set. So any third party system with which you are trying to communicate, the third party system should be registered with the remote site settings. Now I am entering here. Get them. When you make a request, you are getting a response. What type of response you are getting, boss? What type of response you are getting? JSON response. In the JSON response, what do you want to take? You want the value of only pin code. You want the value of only pin code. Only the pin code value required. So what is the name of the element? So what should I do? Deserialize the element, take the pin code. Whatever the JSON we got. So when you are making a request to third party people are sending a response to you in the form of JSON string. They are sending the response in the form of what? JSON string. Look at the code. What was this? JSON string. It's a string value. When they are sending the response in the form of JSON string, I have to deserialize it. So how do you deserialize it? System.json. This is the reason why we learned the JSON earlier. JP equal to JSON dot create parcel. Which one I want to parse? JSON string. Then while JP dot next token not equal to null if JP dot get text equal to either get text equal to pin code. Where is the value? The current token is pin code. Next value is what? Next. My pin code value is on the next position. What should I do? JP dot next token. Then I have to give. So I am taking it ACC dot zip code. ACC dot zip code equal to JP dot. Is that was clear for everyone? ACC dot zip code equal to JP dot get text. Then once you are done with this, insert. Once I inserted ACC, let me take you to the detailed page of the ACC. Page reference. So whenever I click on create, whenever I click on reward here page reference, public page reference, NC, let's see page reference equal to new page reference. The reason is I have given the P double time. I gave the P double time. Already we have used the P here, right? It has given the error message of that. Okay. Now go with this. We came to the second. Now go back to the page. I will preview. Then once the record is created, go back and we go to the value code, zip code 509325. Is that was clear for everyone? So what did I do? I made a web service call. So web service call is what? Simply make a request to HTTP, make a request to third party, get the response. To make a request, I made a HTTP request. To get the response, I told p.send. I got the response. I have taken the response which is coming in the form of JSON. Then I have done deserializing the JSON and using the data. People have followed this example. People have followed this example. Any further queries from my end? Any further queries from your end? Any further queries? I hope you are clear. Okay. Now, the same requirement actually should be acquired from what? Trigger. Why should I build a page and create all this stuff? This can be well acquired from the trigger. So when a new record is created, automatically call a trigger, which will find out the zip code and update. So this implementation actually should be done from what? Trigger, not from the Apex class. It should be done from what? Trigger. So let us implement the same requirement from a trigger. Let's see what are the errors we are going to get, how we fix the errors. We are going to get a couple of errors. Let us see how we get the error, what type of errors we are getting in the trigger and how we are fixing it. Is the requirement is clear for everyone? Everyone has followed this requirement? Everyone has followed this requirement? Clear for everyone? Right. So the same thing I am trying to achieve using a triggers. So I'll create a trigger. A new account is created. Web service followed made third party system. Update zip code based on accounts. Update the zip. Basic understanding. Now I want to create a insert. What was this? Before insert. First I'll try to write a code. How many records are inserted? For how many records are inserted? Group of records will be there. So I'm not sure how many accounts are created. You might have created through data loader. You might have created through list of records. You might have created through some third party. I don't know how many records are coming. When you are not sure, is a trigger.new. For every record, you have to make a web service. So what I'm doing, simply I'm copy pasting this code. With the point instead of acc.city, it is a.city. So how many times the web service will be going? How many times the web service call will go? Depends upon number of records. You will insert 4 records, 4 web service call, 10 records, 10 web service call. I created, saved it. Now I wrote a web service call within a trigger. Now let us go back, create a new account record. You will see the first bug. Capital group, city. What happened? Look at the exception what we got. System.callout exception. Callouts from the triggers are currently not supported. So they are saying you cannot make a web service call from a trigger. But according to your requirement, a web service has to go. So whenever a new record is created, obviously I have to make a call to third party, find out the zip code. I have a requirement to make a web service call, but they say you cannot make a web service call. According to my requirement, web service is a must. But they say from trigger the web service call cannot be made. Then what is the solution I have? The solution what I have is, if you want to call a web services from the trigger, then define the web service within a feature method. Postal feature. I am creating a class. Here I am defining at the rate of feature. Public void static. The same code I wrote. But here the problem is we have to pass the list of accounts. I have to pass the list of accounts because every account you created, for every account I have to make a web service call to third party, get the city. So the list of accounts what you created, I need to get the account. Okay, I need to get the account because every account record I will take, one by one account record I will take the city name, make a web service call. So if I want one by one account, I need to pass the list of accounts. But the future method is not going to support list of S object. As the future method is not supporting list of S object, what is the solution I have? I can pass the list of IDs. If you want to pass the list of IDs, when do I get list of IDs? Only after insert I will get the list of ID. Right. I am going to get the list of IDs only after the insert. Okay. After insert, what are the variables we have? After insert, what are the variables we have? After insert, what are the variables we have? After insert, we have trigger.new, trigger.new and trigger. So when you say trigger.new map, what happened? Map of ID comma record. Map of ID comma record. So what I'm doing? Set of ID. Account ID is equal to trigger.new map is set of keys from the map are taken. What are the keys? In trigger.new map ID is the key. Record ID is the key. Okay. That's how I got the list of all the account IDs. Once you got the list of all the account IDs, what I'm doing here? Set of. Once you know the IDs, can I write the circle query to get the list of accounts? List of account ACCS equal to select ID comma yes ID in all the list of account IDs. What do you pass? List of account IDs what you passed. List of account IDs what you passed. Based on those IDs, I am fetching the records. Get me all the account records whose IDs are in the keys. So whatever the records are created there, those records are in keys. What are the records which are there in the keys? Get those records. The people follow my point. So the list of new records what you created, those record IDs are passed as a parameter. Once you got the IDs, Based on the IDs, I wrote a SQL query and fetching it. Okay. Once we fetched, what should I do? For account ACC. The same code. What is the code here? So I wrote a web service call, I got the data. Okay. Fine. So you got the data. So what is it? You are passing the list of account IDs. Based on the account IDs, I am getting the accounts. The same logic. Whatever the logic we implemented, make a request, endpoint URL, whether it's get send a request, we got the response, parse it, send the zip code. The same thing what I have done. But instead it should be update. Now, what did you do? You wrote a set of ID keys, but it is throwing an error message. Why it is throwing an error message? If you want to call a web services, if you want to call a web service, if you want to call a web services, if you want to call a web services, look at the format. If you want to call a web services, the future method should have an attribute. What is it? What is it? Call out equal to, what is this? It was, if you are trying to make a web services, you have to give call out equal to. You don't give call out equal to, it's going to give an error message. So let's take a lower bracket, while loop is completed. If while loop completed, while, okay, then you have to take for, then take this. Okay. Now, what is this? Whenever you want to call a web service from a future method, we have to give call out equal to. We have to give call out equal to. So what are the bugs we encountered? When you try to call a web service from a trigger will not support synchronous web service call. First step. What is the solution we got? What is the solution we got? Calling the asynchronous web services is the solution. Why asynchronous web service? You see the output. You'll understand why asynchronous is required. Second one. If you want to call asynchronous, I can use a future method. In the future method, I need a list of records on which all the list of new records which are created are inserted so that I can get the required data to perform the web service call. But you are not supposed to pass list of S object, as the future method doesn't support list of S object. What I have done? I pass a list of record IDs. When you pass a list of account IDs, there I wrote a SQL query once again, brought all the data which is available, then I am making a web service. What is the fourth error we got? If you want to call a web service from a future method, you have to give call out equal to true. When you give call out equal to true, then only web service call can be defined in the future method. I hope you are clear. You got the bugs and the solution for the bugs. Yes. Then, how do you call this now? Go to this. So, from the trigger we are calling a future method. Future method is making a web service call to third party. Now it is making for what? Every record. Because I am not sure how many records you have inserted. I am not sure how many records you have inserted. Right, boss? Now understand the thing here. I give Amirpay, capital group, save. When I saved, record is saved, but the zip code is coming. So record is saved, right? Record is saved. Is it a success or a failure? We are not sure. Web service is a success or a failure? We are not sure. Okay. Then refresh the page once again. Still not achieved. Okay. Now go to the jobs, Apex jobs, step out. What is the future method is completed. Go back and find it, refresh it now. Still we are not received. Come back. Let us see one more time. So we are passing a set of IDs here. So we wrote ID, comma, city, zip code. Is a spelling mistake? Chalo. What is that? Okay. There is a wrong with the spelling. Yeah, you're right. So let me create. Here I am giving Amir Pay. Save. You saved. Now look at this. You will not be getting any zip code. There is no zip code. But you refresh the page. You are getting what? So what is that? Record is saved. Record is saved. Web service is running separately. When you wrote a feature method, record is saved. Web service is running separately. Whenever the operation is completed, it is refreshing. So the record did not wait until the web service is completed. The trigger will not wait until the web service is completed. Because when you make a web service, it will take 5 seconds, it will take 20 seconds, it will take 1 minute. So for that 1 minute, I cannot stop the record from saving. I cannot stop the record from saving. If I write a synchronous operation for 1 minute, trigger should be on hold. The trigger should be on hold. Like if you are inserting 100 records, every record is taking 30 seconds for web service call, then how much time it will take? Are you getting my point? If you are writing a sequential operation, until the web service is completed, the record will not be saved. So if you are sending 1000 records and every record is taking 20-second time for a web service call, then the operation will take a lot of time. Performance will go down. That's the reason they told we cannot run a web services from a trigger. The trigger will save. If you want to run any operation, run it as asynchronous. When you run them as asynchronous, what happens? The trigger will finish. Whenever the web service is completed, then you update the data. Are you clear about this format? Are you clear about this format? That is the reason the people say trigger cannot support synchronous web service as there may be a delayed operation. Now, we have discussed about feature method. Why the feature methods are used? If any long running operations are going on, to handle these long running operations, we'll go for a feature. Name some of the long running operation. Web service callouts, bulk operation. Inserting 10,000 records, inserting 50,000 records. This is a bulk operation. Bulk operations are web service callouts will take longer time. To avoid this delay, we will run this operation independently from the rest of the operation. That is the reason we write the web services within the feature method and call that feature method within a trigger. I hope you are clear with this one. Now, can we call it triggers? Web service from a triggers? Yes, but using asynchronous format. If you want to call using asynchronous format, why have taken after insert rather than before insert? Why have taken? Because it is asynchronous. Let it be after or before, it will run independently. But why did I take specifically after? Right? Because I'll get ID, I can use the ID for fetching the data. Right, boss? I hope you are clear. If you want to call a web service from a feature method, how do you define? At the rate of feature, all out equal to 2. First example is clear for everyone. Everyone has followed this example? Clear? Yes. Let us take next example. Here you can keep them in system.debug. Put them in system.debug, go to the log file and check it. Keep system.debug, go to the log file and check it. Go to system.debug, go to log file and check it. Now, how do you check the feature whether it is success or failure? How do you check the feature whether it is success or failure? Okay, I can go to the log files. Okay, apex jobs, apex jobs, or I can write a sample query on async apex job object. I can write a sample query on async apex job object, or I can go to apex jobs and check it. If you want to see whether the response is success or failure, keep system.debug and go to log files and cross it. Right, boss? Okay. Let us go and do next example. I'll try to implement the next example. So what is the next example I'll take? So similar type of example we've done. We'll take some other example. So okay. Now I'll go with tracing your IP addresses. I'll go with tracing your IP addresses. We have done one example. We can go with the next example. Let's say tracing the IP addresses. I want to trace the IP addresses. Or else, let me give you. I want to implement a batch fetch box. I want to implement a batch fetch. I have list of opportunity records. I have a list of opportunity records. In the opportunity, all my data is represented in the rupees, but I want to convert them in the form of dollars and display. All my data is represented in the form of dollars. I want to convert them into rupees and display. Now every day on nightly basis, the job will run and find out the value of 1 rupee pay, $1 equal to how many rupees, update all my opportunity record with a new value. This is my requirement. Did you get my requirement? I went to opportunity. On the opportunity object, what I have? The price is represented in the form of what? Dollar. I want to represent the same currency in the form of rupees. But if I want to convert the dollar into rupees, I don't know what $1 equal to how many rupees. So I have scheduled a job. Every day, nightly basis, job will schedule, find out 1 rupee equal to how many dollars, update all my opportunity records. This is my requirement. How will you achieve that requirement? Did you get my point here? Right. So my index is calling web service system from BatchFX. Why BatchFX? I told all the opportunities. There may be 1 million opportunities. There may be 1 opportunity. There may be 10 lakh opportunities. I'm not sure how many opportunities are there. When there is a possibility of more than 10,000 records, I have to go for what? BatchFX. So first what I'm doing, I will create one custom field here. So how to find $1 equal to rupees? $1 equal to how many rupees I want to find out. To find this, I'm going to some third party. So we are going with a currency converter API, some APIs which are available. I am going with one of the third party system. Right. Now, they are giving this. They told if we give $1 equal to how many rupees? They're saying 64.7. So if I give this, they're giving $1 equal to how many rupees? So what is the currencies are nothing but which format you require, source is nothing but which one you want to convert, and format equal to one, there's specific format. Okay. Now I'm trying to make a request to this third party. When I make a request to this third party, it is going to convey me $1 equal to how many rupees? $1 equal to how many rupees? Okay. First I'll write the regular code, then I will append this code with the BatchFX. Okay. First I want to write a regular code. What is the protocol we are using? Then what is the protocol? HTTP protocol. What is the endpoint? What is the endpoint? What is the method? The data we want to transfer? Data. They are expecting you to pass the data. Is the data they are expecting you to pass. Okay. Then next, what is the method? Authorization. They are given a key for if I produce the key, when I produce this key, then only the data will be authorization. I was supposed to pass this key. This is a key which is used for authorization. Then header, any other elements. This is my request. Now I want to make a request. Public void call. First we need to make HTTP. Then I am making HTTP request equal to new HTTP request. Request dot set. First we need to go for endpoint URL string endpoint. What is the endpoint we have? Then we have the access token. We need to pass the access token. So endpoint equal to endpoint plus endpoint equal to endpoint plus. We give currency %, source, %. So whatever the structure they have given, the same structure I am following. Now they told, listen, why I am passing all the data in the URL only? Because the method is get method. If the method is a get, there is no body. If the method is a get, there will be no body. If there is no body, whatever the data I have to send, I have to send everything using URL. Now if I have to send everything using URL, there is a limitation on. There is a limitation because the size of the URL is a fixed one. I cannot pass how much data I want. The size of the data will be fixed. So there is a limitation to pass the data in the URL. Then how do you send the request? HTTP. Response equal to Did we complete the entire process? Request dot set endpoint. What is the endpoint? Then request dot set method. Then we have HTTP response. HTTP response equal to p dot send. Then we are going to get a response. String result equal to string JSON string equal to response dot. When you are getting a response, I need to deserialize. How you are getting the data? You are getting the data in the form of what? JSON. If you are getting the data in the form of JSON, we have to deserialize. How do you deserialize? System dot JSON parser JP equal to then JSON dot create JSON string. Then we are going to give while JP dot next token. While JP dot next token. If JP dot get text JP dot get text equal to use the INR, then JP dot Right now I'm just writing a sample code. Anyone has any difficulty over this? Anyone has any difficulty over this? Right. First we'll see the things are working fine or not. So when I'm trying to make a web service call to third party, what should I do? Register this. Register this. Register this with what? Register this with what? Register this URL with remote site setting. Go back. Security controllers. You have remote site settings. You're done. Okay. Now I'm going to make a web service call. Let me run from the console. You're going to get the value here. Right, boss? Along with this, I also want to do some other processing. Along with this, I also want to do some other processing. What are the other elements? We got the response. Along with this, I want to print some other body. What is that? System.debug. Response.get status. Get status code. Get header keys. So go back, run the code again. So look at the format. Status is okay. Status code is 200. Header elements. What are the header elements? Cache, access control, allow origin, e tag, API layer, transaction ID. We got some data in the header. The header, some elements are there. This is the value. Are you getting my point? Response status, response code, response header, response body. Right? Okay. Now, still, we are at the basic level of API. Still, there is a lot of other format of authentications available. First, we are at the basic level. Now, when you are doing this, there is a problem with this. What is the problem? I cannot pass the security key like this in the. I cannot hardcode the security key. We are using access key. It is a security key. It is a sensitive information. Sensitive information can never be passed directly in the code. I cannot pass the security information directly in the code. So what I'm doing? I'm going for setup, develop, custom settings, one of the way, custom setting, new custom setting, currency layer, list, new field, name is there, right? It's enough. Already name is there, name is sufficient. Now I got a text. Click on the manage, new, currency. What is the key we got? So never hard code the sensitive data in the program. So one example I am doing right now is currency. There are other formats. one by one we'll be doing. So one of the way of storing is by using custom settings. Now how do you get the data using custom setting? Currency layer. I can use in the form of map, or I can get a particular data. Map of string comma currency layer. Equal to currency layer. Then currency layer. I'm making extending it because you can use all the methods. You can study writing a single line. I'm just trying to revise the topic what we learned there. My map dot get off. Now go back. Custom setting. Okay. Now I have to use here what? In place of this access token, I have to give it as my currency plus. So I avoided the hard coded value. So what was this? Never hard code the sensitive information. So I put the data in the custom setting. I'm writing a query and getting the data from the custom setting and using it. Are you clear? One of the ways to store in the custom setting. There are other ways of like custom metadata types. You can store the custom object. We can store them in the label. The different solutions. One of the solutions is this. Then run the program. So what is this? Go back again. Execute the same program. Now this is, we just try to achieve our basic example. Once we achieve this example, right, basic example is achieved. But what is the core aim of us? What is the core aim? We want to implement everything using what? Batch of it's not a single record, I have a group of record, I have to run the code, get the currency value. Once you got the currency value, we need to convert it. Once you got the currency value, we need to convert it. So what I'm doing? See here, the same code, I have to use it in the batch fix. But the problem is, can I write the code in the batch fix straight away? Let us see. Opti batch. So if you want to write a batch fix, what I'm doing? Global class implements database dot batchable comma, right. First I'll show the error messages, they'll come back. So what is our requirement? Global database dot query locator dot database dot batchable context. Then what I want to do? I want to run a query. What is the query you want to run? Select ID, amount, INR value from. How do you run the query? Return database dot get query locator. Run the query. Once you run the query, we are going to get global void execute database dot batchable context list of now what is the size of the batch we can give? 0 to 1 to 2000. 1 to 2000 I can give. I can give a size of the batch as 1 to 2000. But I have an issue with that. What is that issue? Let us understand. For opportunity, OP, opportunity. Now what should I do? Will I make a 100 web service calls now? Will I write a web service call in every execute method? Now I wrote a sample query. Now, because I'm just trying to convey the message that I'm trying to make use of web service, I'm writing here. But it's not a good choice to go for a web service in this example. I'll tell you why. Only to convey the message I'm giving it. So, here I'm giving it. Now, if I write a web service call straight away in the execute method, then for every record I have to send a web service call. For every record I have to send a web service call. Because to demonstrate the batch service I am using here. But is it optimal condition? Is it optimal condition? Why? Because $1 equal 1 rupee. Okay, $1 equal how many rupees? You can make a web service call once or 100 times, the same value will come. Okay. Only for the sake of understanding I am writing this code here. Okay. So when you are getting this value. So what I am doing here? Here I am going to take it. What is the value? Now I am taking it. Then I am giving amount equal to decimal jp dot edit. Now for every opportunity I will take opportunity dot INR value equal to amount into OP dot, then I have to give update. Then I'm going to go for a finish. Global void batchable context. So what did I do? I wrote web service call. Once I wrote the web service call, I got $1 equal how many rupees. Then I wrote a for loop, took 1 by 1 opportunity record. I wrote a for loop, took 1 by 1 opportunity record. I wrote a for loop, I took 1 by 1 opportunity record. So now I write a web service call within a for loop. That's what I call it. It's a drawback. Why there is a drawback? We have a limit of only 100 web service calls within a transaction. For a transaction, how many web service calls we can make? 100. Now, if I give my batch size if I give it as 500, if I give my batch size as 500, so how many times the record will go? So if in the for loop, if I write a web service, in the batch events I give the size equal to 500, how many times the for loop will run? 500 times. So how many web services are going? 500 times. Then what type of error we are going to get? Too many callouts error. There is a reason. Never write web service call within a for loop. Always try to put them outside the for loop. In case if you are writing a web service within a for loop, your business requirement demands it. Your business requirement demands that the web service should be written within a for loop. Then you have to make sure that size of the transaction will not be more than 100. So if I am writing a web service call within a for loop, if I am writing a web service within a for loop, take one example. Based on the city, get the zip code. Then obviously what? Every record will have one. Every record will have one zip code. Every record will have one city. Obviously with respect to the record only, I have to make a web service call. So it obviously goes with what? Fun. If your requirement demands to write a web service within a loop, ensure that transaction size is not more than 100. Transaction size is not more than 100. Otherwise, avoid writing a web service calls within a for loop. I hope you are clear. So why you are not writing a web service within a for loop? We have a limit, governing limit. What is the governing limit? 100 web service calls for a transaction. 100 web service calls for a transaction. Okay. I wrote a batch fetch. Let us execute this. When I execute this, you're going to get an error message. What is that error? Call out exception. Go back to the jobs and see. Exception. What was this? First, we missed out something else. So, it's about the spelling of opportunity. Go back and execute. You got a different error there actually. Go back to the bench jobs again. First error, too many callouts. Too many callouts. Too many callouts. Why are you getting too many callouts exception? You're getting too many callouts. Why are you getting too many callouts? Because your batch fetch will not support web services straight away. If you want to use a web services straight away, what should you use? Database dot allows callout. Database dot allows callout. If you want to call a web service from a batch fetch, if anybody want to call a web services from the batch fetch, you have to go with database dot allows callout. We have seen how to make a HTTP call, but the same call if you have to make from the web services, okay. Same call if you have to make from the batch fetch, how do you call? Batch fetch implements database dot allows callout. So we have seen how to call a web service from the trigger, how to call web service from the batch fetch. Right. Then go back and execute it now. Go back and execute. The moment you said database.allows callout, what happened? There is no error completed. Then go back to the opportunity, check one by one record, see inner value. So what may be the reason here? We are getting 0.0. What may be the reason? What may be the reason? The amount into OP dot amount. But here, did I write a query to get the amount? We received. Then web service call, if it is not giving the value in a proper way, then obviously amount value will be 0. So we need to give a system.debug and find out whether the web service is running properly or not. Right? So, are you clear about this format? People have followed this format. Clear for everyone? Clear? Everyone is followed? So what is the point? If you have to call a web service from the batch fetch, we have to implement an interface called database.allow callouts. Never write web service call within a loop, as we have a governing limit of 100 for a transaction. If you want to call a web service from a trigger, if you have to make a web service from the trigger, then obviously you have to go with the future method and keep at the rate of future callout equal to 2. This is how we resolve the issues. I hope I'm clear. Today what we have seen is the open authentication. Tomorrow we'll see some more open authentication. Then we'll go with API based authentication. Then I will go with the password based authentication. Right? I'm going to spend more time on the REST API, as 99% of the web services running today are REST API. That's the reason we'll be spending around 10 to 12 examples on the REST API, because even if you get down to the real time, 90% of your examples are going to be REST API. So let us cover all type of REST API models. I give more emphasis on REST API rather than SOAP API. Right. I hope I'm clear with this format. Everyone is clear with this? How to generate?